Hello, I'm Dr. Sandra Cabot. Welcome to my webinars where I share information to give you knowledge and clarity to enhance your health and well-being. I've been a medical doctor for over 50 years and I know that knowledge is power. So let's go. Hello everyone and welcome to our live stream on energy, how to increase your energy. And we're joined by Igor Pershin, who is a mindset coach.
Morning,
And
Sandra.
it's lovely to see you, Igor.
Great to see you too.
Yeah. Certainly is a chilly day here, windy day, but we're keeping warm because we have an efficient metabolism. So, I was thinking about energy, Igor, and how complex it is for our body to make energy. And one incredible fact is that our body makes a quantity of energy which is equivalent to our body weight every 24 hours. So if you weigh 100 kilos, your body has to make 100 kilos of energy in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So that's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
That's
So
incredible.
I always thought energy was for some reason I had it in my mind that it was like it doesn't weigh anything. It was like an electrical thing, but it's actually ATP is like a protein that it's got a weight. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it's got 3 molecules of phosphate and nitrogen and some glucose. So it's an actual chemical, ATP, the chemical of energy. And if your cells don't make that, then you're going to have lots of health problems, including being very tired. So, yeah, it's incredible to think your body's making, if you weigh 100 kilograms, your body is making 100 kilograms of ATP every 24 hours.
And then we're
So,
using it all just through our movement, through all our different conscious and unconscious functions.
yeah,
And then
that's
the only
right.
waste is left over is what we go to the toilet for. And that's a pretty efficient system.
Yeah, well, it's the energy ATP molecule is made in the mitochondria. So every cell in your body, except for red blood cells, but every other cell has mitochondria. Some cells have thousands, whereas brain cells have millions. So your brain cells are really needing a lot more energy than any other cells in your body. Your liver cells, your muscle cells have a lot. So if you think about energy, the weak link in the chain is really the mitochondria. If your mitochondria are not healthy and they're not the right structure, they're not made of the right fats, or you don't have enough mitochondria, you can't make energy. That's the weak link in the chain. And as we get older, we tend to lose mitochondria, particularly if we're exposed to toxic chemicals or we don't have a good diet, we don't have a good lifestyle, then we're going to lose mitochondria. And, a lot of people, as they get older, will say, well, I don't have the energy I had when I was 40 or 50. And they accept it as normal. They just think, well, I'm over 60, so I'm going to be tired. But no, that is not true. You just need to work on your mitochondria. So there we've got trillions of mitochondria in our body making ATP. So what stimulates our mitochondria to work harder? Right. Well, that
Sure.
could be if we're stressed, if we're making a lot of adrenaline. So we don't want to be doing that all the time, and you're going to talk about that. So stress, if it's chronic and unnecessary stress, can really wear your mitochondria out. The other thing that's really important to stimulate your mitochondria to make more energy is thyroid hormone. So, thyroid hormone is made of iodine, the mineral iodine, and the amino acid tyrosine. So, it's a really simple hormone made by your thyroid gland, and it's secreted from the gland and it travels around your bloodstream. It goes to every cell in your body, and then it has to get inside the cell, and it stimulates the mitochondria to work harder. So if your thyroid hormone is not adequate in amount, then your mitochondria won't produce enough energy. So one of the most common symptoms of an underactive thyroid is fatigue. And everything slows down. You get cold, you get a foggy brain because the mitochondria in your brain are not producing the energy for your brain cells to make neurotransmitters. And there are certain energy minerals that are really important for your mitochondria. We discussed iodine. Well, obviously, if you're iodine deficient, you're not going to be making enough thyroid hormone, and therefore your mitochondria will suffer. Other energy minerals that a lot of people are deficient in are magnesium and zinc. So magnesium is very, very important in the mitochondria where glucose or ketones are turned into the energy molecule ATP. So it's all an electrical process where we're generating electrons and protons and all that. And magnesium is essential for that energy production pathway in your mitochondria. And it can be difficult to know if you're deficient in magnesium because the blood test doesn't accurately reflect the total amount of magnesium in your body. So for people who are tired, I just tell them, well, try taking a magnesium supplement because it may make a huge difference to your energy. And it's a safe mineral. It doesn't interact with any drugs. The other energy mineral is zinc, and that one we can measure accurately in a blood test. And zinc is needed for a lot of enzymes in your body. So the enzymes will be involved in producing hormones, neurotransmitters, and other proteins. So if you're low in zinc, it would be advisable to take a zinc supplement as well. So there you go, the energy minerals. And if you want to know if you're low in iodine, you can have a urine test, and that will measure the concentration of iodine in the urine. So you don't want that to be low. There you go. Yeah, so energy is so important. And, I see a lot of people who are very tired. One patient of mine who comes to mind recently improved a lot with her energy level. She is an older lady in her late 70s, so it's never too late to rejuvenate your energy and your mitochondria. But she was tired because she was taking a lot of antacid drugs. So she had reflux. And also she had some asthma. And she would get in the swimming pool every morning. She's really into fitness. So she'd get in the swimming pool and do her exercises, and that would bring on wheezing because of the steam coming from the pool and the chlorine in the steam. So she'd need to use a Ventolin puffer. So I gave her some things to help her mitochondria, help her immune system. I gave her N-acetylcysteine, abbreviated to NAC. I gave her magnesium. I gave her selenium. And I gave her some gut powder, ultimate gut health powder. And after several weeks, she noticed that she was no longer getting the wheezing. in the swimming pool. So
Mm.
she was delighted, and so therefore she had a lot more energy to do the exercises in the pool. So, it's never too late to really improve the function of your mitochondria. So that's a really positive story to give people inspiration.
It's
So
also
we've
good
got,
because it kind of reminds us that just as we get older, it doesn't mean we have to get any less energetic necessarily.
exactly. I mean,
Mm.
I'm in my mid 70s and I have plenty of energy. I can do everything I want to do.
Mm.
It is important, obviously, to get enough sleep. That's a critical factor for energy. So if you're not a good sleeper, you need to work on that. But I have more energy now than I had in my 40s and 50s. So, it's true energy, it's lasting energy, it's endurance.
Mhm.
Um, Whereas people who have a problem with their mitochondria, they rely too much on stimulants. So they rely on
Caffeine.
caffeine, yeah, sugar, nicotine, which are short acting stimulants, and they work only for a short time because they release the adrenaline that's stored in your body. So you store adrenaline in your adrenal glands and in your sympathetic nervous system. So when you take nicotine or caffeine or cocaine or whatever, you're releasing all the adrenaline that's stored. So you might feel great for an hour or two, but then because you've depleted your adrenaline stores and overworked your mitochondria for a short burst, you feel tired.
Mm.
Yeah. And another reason that a lot of people have fluctuating energy levels, their energy levels okay for a while, and then it slowly diminishes, and all day it's going like this, up and down, up and down. It's not steady. That is often due to instability in your blood glucose level. And this is caused by insulin resistance. And a lot of people who have insulin resistance don't realize they have it. But if you're insulin resistant, that means that glucose does not get inside your cells. So the mitochondria cannot access the glucose to turn it into energy. Insulin resistant people will send the glucose to the liver to be stored as fat. So they put on weight very easily and they're tired. And when they get tired, they will crave carbohydrate. They'll crave sugar or pasta or bread or anything sweet and anything with grains that's processed. And that will give them a short burst of energy. But because their insulin isn't working, they're resistant to the insulin, it doesn't last because the glucose is not getting inside the cells. So insulin resistance, very common cause of fatigue, and we can measure that by checking a fasting blood sugar level and a fasting insulin level, and also a blood test called HB1AC, and that measures the average level of glucose in your blood over the last 3 months. And if you're insulin resistant, that will tend to be too high because there's too much glucose in your blood, it's not getting into your cells. So insulin resistance is a common cause of fatigue and inability to lose weight. And of course, being overweight makes you tired, doesn't it? Because you're carrying around all this extra weight and that's wearing out your heart. So if you are insulin resistant and you're craving carbs, what'll happen when your blood sugar goes up and then it drops, you won't feel well. You'll feel real tired, you may have a foggy brain, you may sweat, you may get a headache, and you've got to have carbohydrate. But it's just a quick fix. It's not going to help you. So people with insulin resistance need to eat more protein. So in the morning, they can have eggs or some meat or some Greek yogurt with some linseed, sunflower seeds, and almonds, um, and have protein for lunch and have protein for dinner and reduce the carbs. And the other thing that really helps insulin resistance is magnesium. It's very critical to use a magnesium supplement if you are insulin resistant. So I can see there's so many factors that are affecting our mitochondria, isn't it? There's the
Interesting.
hormones. Yeah, it is interesting. Mitochondria are
I
fascinating. Hmm.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I think I've been insulin. I mean, a little bit insulin resistant in the past, but yeah, I think through intermittent fasting, I've improved my metabolic flexibility.
Definitely.
And also, yeah, like you said, just eating, yeah, eating like a more sort of high carb, whole food diets or more protein. I Yeah, I don't get those cravings as much. I mean, the only times I get like sugar cravings is if I haven't slept very well. So if I've
Yeah.
had a bad sleep, I just automatically want really bad food, and I try and resist it.
Energy,
Don't
yeah, for
always
energy,
succeed.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. But yeah,
We
your
should do an
mitochondria
episode on
are
sleep.
affected by hormones, particularly thyroid hormone, by adrenaline, which is a hormone really, and a neurotransmitter, by cortisol, and also by insulin resistance. So, if that glucose cannot get inside your cells, then your mitochondria don't have the fuel to burn to make ATP. And as you said, intermittent fasting can be excellent because it does lower insulin. It helps insulin to work better, and it will also increase the amount of healthy mitochondria in your cells. So, if let's say you just start with missing breakfast, if you're not hungry in the morning, you don't have to eat breakfast. Or if you're wanting to do a longer fast, you could miss lunch as well. Just make sure you drink plenty of water and don't get low in electrolytes. You can take some good electrolyte powders with magnesium, potassium in them. And some people feel very energized with fasting. And did you notice that your brain was a lot clearer, Igor, when you were fasting?
Definitely, I found that I didn't need to I didn't feel the urge to have coffee as much. Like sometimes I forget to even have my morning coffee, and I wouldn't even notice. I'd still be fairly energized, and it
Yes.
wasn't like the sort of high and then crash like you get with coffee. It was just sort of sustained energy throughout the day. I mean, I did notice if I'm sometimes I'll skip lunch as well. So on those days when I'm trying to do a full 24-hour fast, I just get like really cold around lunchtime, so I have to chuck on an extra layer, which was
Yeah,
interesting.
that's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Um, and you live in a hot place, so that's unusual.
Yeah. Well, aircon's pretty cold in my office at JCU.
Oh,
Just out of curiosity, um, how many meals do you eat today, Sandra? And also, do you drink coffee?
well, I do drink coffee because actually coffee is good for the liver, but I
Hmm.
don't put sugar in it.
Hmm.
I just have black coffee.
No milk.
But coffee induces the phase one detox pathways in your liver. So
Okay.
if you, let's say you're a coffee addict and you have like 4 or 5 coffees, it's probably too much
Mm.
because you'll speed up the phase one pathway, but the phase two pathway's got to be supported to cope with the metabolites from the caffeine.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I can have 1 or 2, even 3 cups of coffee a day. Coffee is a nootropic, so it's actually um, a brain stimulant.
Mm.
And there is some research that it shows to help the function of the liver. So for people with a fatty liver, that's good news.
Mm.
I often miss breakfast. Mostly I miss breakfast
Hmm.
because I'm not hungry. I only eat when I'm
Yeah.
hungry. And I
Yeah.
think, our culture is, well, you've got to have 3 meals a day or you're going to have a problem with your blood sugar and your energy level. That's not true. Everyone's different. If you're a type 2 diabetic, you'll probably find that intermittent fasting does help you. If you're a type 1 diabetic where you're insulin dependent, well, then intermittent fasting can be problematic and it has to be done under medical supervision. But when you do the intermittent fasting, it's fantastic for your gut microbiome. And so the bacteria in your gut have a huge effect on your mitochondria. Because if you've got the wrong bacteria, they're going to release bacterial toxins, which will get into your bloodstream and then can damage your mitochondria and make you tired. So, with people who have irritable bowel syndrome, bloating, fatigue after eating, a lot of people will be fine and then they'll eat something and bang, their energy changes dramatically. They feel tired and they get bloating. Well, that's the wrong gut bacteria fermenting the carbohydrates in your food. And indeed, some people have such a disordered gut microbiome that if they eat carbohydrate, they start turning it into alcohol. And some people actually end up with an auto brewery in their gut where they're making elevated alcohol, and that will make you tired as well. So your gut microbiome has a huge influence on your energy, and intermittent fasting is one way to improve that, along with having some fermented foods, I think is good. Yeah. So we do have a question there from Elle. Hello, Elle. She's asking, what about people who are not insulin resistant and are still tired? Well, there are, excuse me, I got a bit of a frog in my throat.
Ribbit.
Well, as I said, there's lots of causes of fatigue, not just insulin resistance. It could be that you're low in the energy minerals. You could be low in iodine, zinc, and magnesium. Or you could have a disordered gut microbiome. Or you could be low in iron. One of the most common causes of fatigue in women is iron deficiency. And I see women, particularly premenopausal women, with tragically low levels of iron. And that is because they are losing too much blood with their menstruation and they need to have their hormones balanced by using bioidentical progesterone. So once again, there's so many factors influencing our energy. If you're low in progesterone and you're premenopausal, you could get very heavy menstrual bleeding, you'll get chronic iron deficiency, and therefore your red blood cells are not able to carry the oxygen to your cells for the mitochondria to use to make ATP. So it's all happening on the cellular level. And in anybody with chronic fatigue, you have to check everything because there's often 3 or 4 different causes of what that person is experiencing the fatigue for. Are they low in progesterone? Are they low in thyroid? Do they have a disordered gut microbiome? Are they low in magnesium? We need to check everything. And, Igor, I see a lot of patients who have these nutritional deficiencies and these hormonal imbalances, and they don't get addressed in time. So you have to be a little bit pushy with your health, You have to push for those tests. Don't accept the chronic fatigue. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, what do you mean by not addressed in time? Is there a certain time limit? And if it's not addressed, then it becomes like a permanent issue? Is that what you mean?
Well, let's say, look, it's normal to be tired for, say, up to several months if you've had severe stress, if your sleep pattern's disturbed, if you've had a severe viral infection like Epstein-Barr virus or COVID, and particularly if you're selenium deficient. Selenium is a mineral which I forgot to mention because it really is an energy mineral, but it's a critical mineral for your body to fight a virus and for people to overcome chronic fatigue from post-viral syndrome. A lot of people don't get better because they're selenium deficient. So, anybody who's been really tired for 3 or 4 months, and for them, that's unusual. They're not normally tired. We should have tests done, particularly a serum iron profile to measure all their iron parameters. They should have a full blood count to check, are they low in iron, are they low in red blood cells, anemic, in other words. What is their thyroid doing? Are they low in white blood cells? What is their liver doing? Is their liver making enough protein? If they have a family history of autoimmune disease, check if they have antibodies against their thyroid, or antibodies that could signal that they have a hidden autoimmune disease. I mean, there's so many tests that need to be looked at, but the message is, if you can't find a cause for your chronic fatigue, go and see another doctor, or go and see an integrative doctor who will look at all these causes and address the cause.
Yeah.
Because you can't just go through life, boosting your energy with stimulants. It's not going to last.
Yeah, and then there's like obviously long-term health issues associated with people using nicotine to get through the day, for example.
Yeah, that's right. Well, actually, nicotine's not particularly harmful.
Or it depends on the method of ingestion, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. Like, it's a bit like caffeine. It's a nootropic, and some people will use a nicotine spray, don't they? But it's the vaping that's not so good, because, the chemicals that get into your lung are not really healthy. Some people use nicotine lozenges, but some of those have got artificial sweeteners, so that's not particularly good. Maybe there's a natural one that's chemical free. I don't know.
But then it gets then like nicotine is so addictive. So it's
It is.
yeah,
Well,
it
it's
can
like
sneak up on you.
coffee's addictive too, but you just have to control it,
True.
don't you?
Yeah.
My mother
Yeah, I
was
like
funny. My mother, she was a
so,
bit naughty, and she lived till she was 94, and she
mhm.
used to have a cigarette. And because she was born in the 1920s and everybody smoked. And she'd say, "Well, I'm only having one because I control my addiction." And then as she got older, her memory wasn't so good, and she'd say, "I've only had one." I'd say, "No, darling, you've had 4."
As far as
Because
I can remember.
you've got to control addictions.
Mm,
Um, Nobody's perfect. But, yeah, it's
yeah.
that sustained energy that we want. And particularly as we get older, we do need to nurture our mitochondria more. And I know in our last live stream, I mentioned a supplement called NMN, nicotine mononucleotide. Nicotinamide mononucleotide, it's hard to say,
Mouthful.
NMN. And it can help your mitochondria to make more ATP. That's been proven in a lot of studies. So it's a particularly good supplement, NMN, for people who find that as they get older, they're getting more tired. So that is like a mitochondrial supplement that you could take for energy, NMN.
But I
And
guess that's once you've already done all the research to see if there's any other reasons, right?
yeah,
Would you just try it? Yeah.
well, let's say you've had all the tests done and you've taken a magnesium supplement, you corrected any nutrient deficiencies, and you still want some extra energy. You could try NMN. It's not going to hurt you. It's harmless,
Mm.
and it will boost your mitochondria, and it could be helpful, for somebody who's coming out of a stressful situation, or they're coming out of a chronic illness and they just need a bit of a boost. The other thing that is important for the mitochondria to make energy is coenzyme Q10. And everybody knows about that, don't they? Coenzyme Q10. So it's in the mitochondria and it's part of the energy cycle, what we call the redox cycle that makes ATP. And people who are on statin drugs, they're cholesterol-lowering drugs, have a severe deficiency of coenzyme Q10 because they can't make it. So they must take coenzyme Q10 supplement or they're going to get very fatigued and particularly very fatigued muscles. So once again, there's so many factors that we need to look at for energy production. Yeah. So I think you have some slides to share as well, Igor.
Yeah, just a part 2 for the slides I shared last week. Yeah, more about solutions. I'll throw them up. Yeah, so Reclaim Your Energy, part 2, Psychology, NLP, and Mindset Tools. Yeah, so just a bit of a recap. Yeah, last week we explored emotional and psychological roots of fatigue. So internal conflict and identity level beliefs. So when those are incongruent, or if we're allowing ourselves to go through chronic stress, and that can definitely be a major energy leak.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
And
And
how
it can upset your gut too because it's acting on the vagus nerve.
Yeah, exactly. So there's physiological component to that too.
Yeah.
How suppressing emotions, so not actually allowing yourself to feel whatever emotions that you're feeling, can really be an energy drain. Emotions are energy that needs to be released, essentially, because you've experienced some loss, or something didn't work out your way, and it's whatever it is. It's important to really allow yourself to release those emotions in a healthy way, and
Yes.
that could be, it could involve journaling, could involve talking to your friends and your confidants or your therapist. It could involve, addressing the issue in a diplomatic way with whatever the issue is. So whatever
Yeah.
it is, I think it's important not to suppress them.
Yes.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about sort of rewiring and rebuilding.
Great.
Yeah, so misalignment is a huge one. So fatigue often lifts when we live within our own values. So I remember there was one point I was living in London. I was working for an ad agency, and it was a bit of a turning point because I was very much against people taking on more credit, because I know that sort of causes more and more stress. And it was a client I took on through the ad agency I was working with that kind of preyed upon people like who were lower socioeconomic, and then got them to take on more credit. And that I just felt like that was so out of alignment with my values. I lasted maybe another month before I just I said, you know what, I can't do this. And I asked, can I not work on this client? And they're like, no, we need you to work on this client. It's a big client. And so I just thought, I can't do this. So I had to leave. And the moment, like that month, I was so lethargic. No amount of coffees could get me through the day because I was out of alignment with my values. And then the moment I left, I just felt so light. I was jobless, but I felt happy. And eventually I found another job that was much more in alignment with my values, working for Open Universities Australia, so promoting online education for people who can't necessarily attend a physical uni. So that was major shift.
Yes.
So honoring your true needs. So I've experienced that lately, where without going into too much detail, it's quite personal. Where my certain needs in my life weren't met, and I had to speak out, and I had to address that imbalance and state what my needs were in that situation, and find ways to actually ensure that they are met. So I think that's if you don't do that in whatever aspect of your life, then that can lead to lethargy, because you're not actually living who you are, and you're not allowing your needs to be honored.
Yes.
So say no from a place of say no from a place of self-worth. So that's kind of similar to living life in your own values. So if there's
Yes.
something that you agree to, that, so for example, like a really good example that I speak to with a lot of my clients is, if we create boundaries with our friends, and we've got maybe a friend that decides, or even our relationships, or especially our relationships actually, and our loved one or our friend breaches those boundaries, and we allow them to do that, then what does that say about us? It says that we don't love ourselves that much. Because if we
Yes.
did, then we would uphold those boundaries. And when we allow our boundaries to be transgressed, then that can lead to fatigue, that can lead to sadness, that can lead to all sorts of emotions.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely can sap your energy. Whereas
Mm.
if we allow live if we uphold those boundaries, then we can actually, we feel light, we feel free. We know that the people around us treat us the way we want to be treated, and we know, and we have strict boundaries of how we want to be treated, and therefore we treat ourselves. I like the analogy I use with my clients: treat yourself like you would your best friend.
Yes.
So
Very good.
eh, when you
Yeah.
live like that, in that alignment, then you'll feel boundless energy, probably more energy than you've ever felt in your life if you've never lived like that before.
Mm.
Transformation can be phenomenal.
Yes. That's right. Because you're
Yeah.
letting go of blocked energy. I mean, in a way, you're creating this energy, mental and physical, but if you can't express it because of mental block, then that's not allowing the energy to flow. So blocking the energy is probably just as destructive as not making enough energy.
Mm.
Hmm.
And then once you transition to a place of self-worth and self-love, sort of dissolving that limiting belief of I'm not enough, and replacing with I am enough and I am worthy, then you automatically treat yourself better, like in terms of your boundaries with your friends, in terms of like how you look after yourself, and even with like things like food. You might think, okay, if I treated myself like my best friend, would I let my best friend eat this, you know, this toxic stuff that I previously put in my body? Probably not. So you go,
No.
actually, if I truly love and honor myself, then I would only put the best food in my body. I would only um, make sure that I have the best. Yeah, I feed myself the best sources of energy, which ultimately goes back to what you were talking about with ATP. So it's
Yeah,
all connected. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
fatigue fades when you stop betraying yourself. So that's a really good um, sentence to hold on to. So if you're feeling tired, then ask yourself, where am I betraying myself? In the way I treat myself, in the way I allow myself to be treated. They're often a really good place to start, and you don't need to go to any doctor for that. That's something that you can see within your own life, and you can do some journaling and reflection and find out.
Yes.
So yeah, emotional release. Timeline therapy is a tool that I use, and a lot of other accredited NLP practitioners use, to really let go of some emotional burdens that may be weighing you down. And that, as we know, that can be a really big drain on your energy. So specific emotions we work on: anger, sadness. Wait, it's on a different order than I normally hear. So, but yeah, we work on anger, sadness, guilt, fear, and shame.
Yes.
So once we actually dissolve those emotional burdens, and therefore only move towards a place where we experience them in a normal way. So obviously, if you know, if you experience loss, it's normal to feel some sadness, but not for the rest of your life. That's not normal. So
Correct.
then you go to a place where you're actually feeling emotions like you would in a healthy way, then your energy will be restored in a big way. And also dissolving in limiting decisions and beliefs from the past. That really goes hand in hand as well.
Yes.
So yeah, creating that emotional lightness and renew motivation.
Mm.
Yeah. So for example, one of my clients feel like I just dropped 20 kilos of emotional weight. And funnily enough, I've had clients that have actually lost weight when they've gone through this process, which is interesting.
That doesn't
Without
surprise
necess-
me. That doesn't
yeah.
surprise me at all because, most people who become overweight are using carbohydrates for comfort, for an emotional emptiness. So, for people to truly do well in a long-term weight loss journey, you need to address the mind big time. And, we have a weight loss detective program, which is very good. We have nutritionists and naturopaths. And most of the people that we see are very overweight, and we have to re-educate their mind into understanding the right types of food, but also, strategies so that they don't use that addictive behavior. So you won't be successful unless you, as you say, drop the emotional weight as well as the physical weight.
Yeah, definitely. Don't turn to the ice cream when you've had a bad day.
Yeah. Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat.
Oh. I actually tried frog when I was in Vietnam. It actually tastes like chicken.
Did you? What was it like?
Yeah. It was kind of reminded me of like fried chicken.
Oh,
Yeah, and you could be fooled into thinking that you're eating fried chicken, but then you think, oh, this doesn't look like a chicken bone at all.
yeah. Well, there you go. If you didn't try snails.
I've tried snails in France once, escargot. That's nice.
Was
But it's
it?
all in the garlic butter sauce. It doesn't taste like much, but if you have a good sauce, it's good.
I couldn't eat a snail. It's too slimy.
No? Well, it's not slimy in your mouth. Once it's cooked, I wouldn't eat it raw. No snail sashimi for me.
I'm not that adventurous. Okay.
I like to try most things. So rewiring identity. This goes back to what we talked about last week when you've got incongruencies in your identity, in who you are and who you're living out as. So this can be really draining. So, for example, this is just who I am. If you think this is just how I am versus the way you think you could be, that is more in alignment with your values. So you can use NLP to shift that. And that's just a simple reframe. These are not really complex techniques, really. You're just sort of analyzing the language that you're using within your mind and just shifting it towards a more healthy way of looking at it. So, for example, I'm always exhausted. It could be, I'm someone who's learning how to honor my energy. So if you say to yourself, I'm always exhausted, then you're going to align your behavior in ways that lead more to that, You might stay up later. You go, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Who cares? I'm always exhausted anyway.
Yes.
Whereas if you shift to that version of someone learning how to honor my energy, then your behavior will change in alignment with that. So I never finish anything. I'm becoming more consistent each week. I can slow down. I can't slow down. Rest is part of my power. These are reframes that I've had to make in my own life, thinking that if I'm relaxing, then I felt guilty for relaxing, I need to be working, I need to be making money, I need to be doing this. And then actually allowing myself by going, well, I earned this time off and I need to honor my body and listen to myself. So these are really, really powerful.
They are.
Anchoring with something I mentioned in previous ones. So this is a simple technique that anyone can do at home. You just think of something that you wouldn't normally do on a typical day. I don't know, could be rubbing your fingers like that. It might look strange when you're doing it, but who cares what people think, right? Could be rubbing your earlobe. whatever it is, you do that movement over and over, and then you recall a time when you felt energized, powerful, playful, and you lock it in. So when you've reached, so you go, okay, when's the last time I felt like powerful, energetic, playful? And then once you've locked in that experience, you're like, okay, it was, when I was running around the beach with my dog. You go, okay, bang, rub your earlobe or rub your fingers together or whatever it is, tap yourself on the shoulder, and then do that, over and over, and think about other memories, and really go back to that in place in your own mind and feel those emotions. At the height of emotions, lock yourself in. So you just do that over and over. And then before you know it, you're feeling tired, and you just do that little movement, whatever it is, and you'll feel energized because you've anchored that movement to that emotion, and you can bring that emotion back by doing the movement. It's a very powerful technique.
Wow.
Parts integration. This is another great one. Probably a bit too complex for me to go into over here. But yeah, if you're already working with an NLP coach, then that's something that you may have already done with them, or you could do. And that's when you're like, go, part of me feels like I'm tired all the time. Part of me feels like I'm energized some of the time. If there's parts of you that think different things, then you can help lock them in together using this tool. So values realignment. So when you act against your core values, you burn out. So we've talked about that before at the start of this, my slides. So you ask yourself, like, often people don't even know what their true values are. And if you don't know what your core values are, how do you know when you're in alignment? You might get a gut feeling, but that's not specific enough, and you're not going to know why you're getting that not in your gut when you're acting out of alignment. So it's really important to figure out what your top 5 values are and actually order them. Like what's the most important, least important. Obviously, they're all important in your top 5, otherwise it wouldn't be there. And then you ask yourself, like, okay, these are my top 5 values. Is my life in alignment with my values? If not, why not? And how can I change it so it is? And if you find that you are out of alignment, then bang, there's a huge source of energy drain and fatigue. So that's a really important one. Dopamine menu. This one's really interesting. I only come across this one recently with my ADHD clients, but it actually can work for anyone. It's not specific to people with ADHD. So basically, this is a way of rewarding yourself. And we often don't reward ourselves, and then we just move on to the next thing and the next thing. And we don't celebrate our wins. So it's really important. And this is something I've built into my app, my weekly dash, where you can actually insert what kind of rewards you'd like are important to you, because different rewards are different for people, For me, like an easy win could be a cup of tea, and not just any cup of tea. What's your favorite tea, or go out and make that one. I love going for a walk on the beach barefoot, so that's an easy win for me.
Well, spiking your dopamine is so important because dopamine is the neurotransmitter that makes you feel satisfied. I've achieved something, and that brings satisfaction, and it stops you craving because you already feel satisfied. So it's very important to support your dopamine. And it's interesting that, you're talking about thought processes that can spike your dopamine, and also the amino acid tyrosine can help to spike your dopamine. So let's say you're not eating enough protein, or you're a vegan, perhaps you have a lack of dopamine there, and you could benefit from taking a tyrosine supplement.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So the bigger the goal, the bigger the reward. Like if there's some big project you're working on and you've reached it, go take yourself out for a weekend somewhere. Like go on a trip. Like just make sure you reward yourself. Otherwise, Yeah, otherwise it can lead to burnout, just not actually stopping and smelling the roses and rewarding yourself and taking some time out.
Yeah.
Yeah, rituals for daily energy. So in the morning, I try and ground myself like barefoot, even just for like a minute. It's really good, and just doing some breathing, getting that first ray of sun that really can reset your circadian rhythm so you sleep better. So that's really important for me because I've had issues with sleep.
Mm.
I journal in the morning, which some people journal at night. I like to do it in the morning. That way, I'm going into the day without anything weighing me down in my mind. Like I've already got it down on paper or onto my Evernote, so it's there.
Yeah.
In the midday, go for a walk, cold splash, maybe an anchor that maybe might give you a bit more energy. Try not to have a coffee at midday because I'm quite sensitive to caffeine. Um, and yeah, evening shut down. So just that last hour, switching the screens off, um, calming cue. Like for me, there's this really nice sleepy time tea, which I get from Woolworths. Uh,
Really?
Yeah, they're really good. Like you have one of those, and it's just their blend of herbs, and it just puts you in a nice mellow state. Really easy to drift off. Yeah,
Yeah.
some people like to do a bit of reflection at night. I like to do that as well. Look over my
Yeah.
whole day. Like what am I grateful for? It's a good time for gratitude. What are my wins? What could I have done better? Like just a bit of
Mm.
reflection.
And also,
Um,
with your rituals, don't forget to take your supplements, because a lot of
yes.
people are very erratic and they don't
Mm,
realize, every day you need magnesium. Your body is using it at an incredibly fast rate.
mm,
You need to take the iodine, the zinc, the vitamin D, all these things that are critical for a healthy immune system and for energy production. And what I find is a lot of people will do it for several months and they feel so much better, but then they get slack because they're not following that ritual of taking them. I always take my supplements in the morning and then before I go to bed. Um,
mm.
and it's become ingrained in me. And if I don't do that, I'll really feel the difference. So I think that's important part of energy production, to have that ritual, to be regular with your supplements.
Yeah, definitely. I usually take my supplements in the morning around the time when I'm journaling. Just got them sort of
Yeah,
there on my desk as a
yeah,
reminder.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's good to build that in and same time every day. So then it becomes like a habit. I know there's a really good book on habits called Atomic Habits, where
yeah.
you
It's
called
good. Yeah,
habits stacking, when you've got an existing habit and you do attach a new habit. So if you're struggling to take your supplements, but you're consistent on brushing your teeth every morning and at night, just attach it to that. Either do it after or before brushing your teeth. So
yes, that's right.
yeah.
Put it in your plan for the day. It's very,
Mm,
very important because so many people do forget. Yeah.
mm. Consistency builds momentum, and momentum builds vitality. That's a good one.
Mm.
Yeah, so yeah, just final reflections. Fatigue isn't just about rest, it's about reconnection and reconnecting to who you are and your values and being consistent and congruent with who you are. So ask yourself, yeah, what have I outgrown? What part of myself needs to be heard? Um, so really feel into who you are and what your needs are. Um, what energy draining story am I ready to let go of? And that goes back to those limiting beliefs that you can reframe.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so you're not broken. You're just tired of living out of alignment. So, and that could be out of alignment with your values, and it could be out of alignment with the physiological aspects that Dr. Sandra talked about, your gut biome and everything else.
Yes.
So, yeah, let this be your invitation to return to wholeness. And there are my details there if anyone wants to follow that up a bit more in depth. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Very good. Yeah, and another thing that I see, Igor, in tired people is they have hidden chronic inflammation. So we can test for that with a blood test. It's called CRP, C-reactive protein, and we want that to be as low as possible. Definitely below 5, but the lower the better. Because if you have chronic inflammation occurring in your body all the time, that is using up your energy. So your immune system is meant to protect you, but with chronic inflammation is overactive and it's actually damaging your cells. So, perhaps it's being caused by stress, as you mentioned, too much adrenaline, too much cortisol can lead to chronic inflammation. Perhaps you've been exposed to toxic chemicals. I mean, we're all exposed to microplastics, but, we know how to minimize that. And you could have been exposed to mold toxins, or you could have had an adverse reaction to a vaccine, which has set up a chronic post-vaccine inflammation, or you could have a hidden virus. There's a lot of viruses going around at the moment. There's a new virus from bats in Australia, which recently resulted in a fatality of a man who was bitten by a bat. But there's always these new viruses evolving. And if we've got too much viral load in our body, that will cause chronic inflammation and that will make us tired. So check for chronic inflammation, because there is a lot that you can do to reduce that, by improving your gut microbiome and taking the right minerals to help your immune system to reduce the free radicals that are being produced that are damaging your cells. Yeah. So I think
I've also heard of people who maybe eat too much seafood can have heavy metal toxicity as well, which can lead to fatigue and inflammation.
Yes, an overload of mercury, lead, arsenic, cadmium, and that can be checked with a hair mineral analysis and a blood test. And if you do have a heavy metal overload, you can have chelation therapy, IV chelation, which is very good. And also remember, your liver is so important in getting rid of toxins, including heavy metals. And the way that your liver eliminates toxins from your body is through the bile. So having a healthy flow of bile will help to get rid of heavy metals. So that goes back to, looking at your liver function. And I've got some really good videos on the gallbladder on YouTube. So people who do think they have a dysfunctional gallbladder or a sluggish bile flow can check out the videos that I've done on gallbladder on YouTube, and they're very helpful. But yeah, so many people are exposed to toxins these days, and we're seeing cancer rates skyrocket in younger people, and this is environmental. And the researchers are scratching their heads. Why is this happening? But when you look at what we've done to our environment in the last 3 decades, it's obvious.
Yeah.
So, detoxing and keeping your liver healthy is critical. Yeah.
Yeah, all the pesticides in our foods and
Yeah.
remain in our environment, a big part of it, I think. Yeah.
It is, yeah. If you can get organic, that's great. Otherwise, you really have to scrub your food, get rid of all the plastic and the chemicals on the outside of your food.
Is it vinegar? Like washing in vinegar can help?
Yes,
Is that true?
definitely. Yeah, and also if you have an ozone generator, you can make ozone water and put that on the produce, and that will break down any chemicals. Ozone's a great detoxifier.
I've never heard of ozone maker. What is it, like a
An
water
ozone
filter?
generator, yeah. I have some, and we use it for people, who have gut dysbiosis or gut infections. they drink ozone water. But it is a great way to clean your produce. The ozone will break down chemicals. And another thing too that I think that researchers will be using in the future is different mushrooms, because they've found that there's different mushrooms that break down plastic. So you can put this mushroom in a soil that's full of microplastic, and the mushroom will chew it up completely and turn it into harmless substances.
I've heard about that. I think maybe you shared it or someone else shared it with me. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, a mushroom in New
Very
Zealand.
cool.
So that's what we need to start doing, to get the microplastics out of the soil.
Yeah, definitely.
Toxin overload, big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there you go. We've covered a lot of factors that could be reducing your energy, mind-body medicine, and it's very important that you look at all those factors, because you don't want to put up with being chronically fatigued as you go through life, that's for sure.
And yeah, we'll have a think about what we'll be talking about next week, unless you've got any
Yes,
suggestions
and
we can
also
talk offline.
people can send us an email. Send us an email at liverdoctor.com or at cabothealth.com.au, and let us know what topics you would like us to discuss. We love to hear from you, and there's so many interesting subjects that we can cover for you. Yeah.
Definitely.
So I think that's all for today.
Thanks, Sandra.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks,
everyone.
Igor. Thanks, everyone.
All right. All the best.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, thanks for being part of our webinar. If you have any questions or new topic suggestions, email us at support@liverdoctor.com. And don't miss our next webinar. Be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter at liverdoctor.com. Bye for now.